6 is on deck. And by the way, Mr. May, I like to tie. Staff, I like your pinkness.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Margot Duval with the General Counsel's Office. Item 6 addresses a joint petition for approval of regulatory improvements for decentralized solar net metering systems in Florida. Staff recommends that the petition be treated as a petition to initiate rulemaking to amend the Commission's net metering rule because the petitioners are requesting the Commission to revise certain terms and requirements contained in that rule. Staff further recommends that the Commission deny the petition for the reasons provided within staff's recommendation and that this docket be closed. The petitioners have filed 2 responses in the docket file. We have Mr. Ginsberg-Klemmt here on behalf of the petitioners and would like to address the Commission on this item. And also Mr. Ken Rubin on behalf of FPL and the other IOUs is also here and would like to participate in the discussion. Staff is available for questions.
Okay. Mr. Rubin, I'll let you go first, and then I'll go back to the petitioner so he can address any of your concerns or questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ken Rubin for FPL. I simply wanted to advise the Commission that FPL supports the staff recommendation. I'm not sure what the petitioner intends to speak to today in terms of issues, but there are a number of unsupported assertions in the written filings. We'd be happy to address each and every one of those in the appropriate proceedings, but from FPL's perspective, we don't see this as the appropriate time, place, or docket in which to do that. These are specific customer complaints. So we simply support the staff recommendation and ask the Commission for approval of that staff recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Is Mr. Klemmt?
Ginsberg-Klemmt.
Thank you. I didn't mean to butcher your name.
No problem.
Please, sir.
Dear Public Service Commissioners, Ms. Julie Brown, Chairman Mr. Art Graham, Dr. Donald Pohlman, Mr. Gary Clark, and Mr. Andrew Fay. Dear PSC staff members, Ms. Margot Duval, Ms. Catherine Cowdery, and Mr. Matthew Fogel, thank you for allowing me to speak today. Not sure if you believe in climate change and scientific facts. I do. The day after our current government administration exited the Paris Climate Treaty, our family sat around the kitchen table and we decided to order a few pallets of solar panels from Sunelec in Miami. We also ordered solar inverters, electronic optimizers, and fastening clamps over the internet. And on July 11, 2017, our own rooftop solar system went live into production. As homeowners, we acted as our own general contractor and we permitted our own solar system by submitting signed and sealed engineering plans to the county and assured the services of a licensed electrician to oversee the code compliance of our rooftop solar installation. Standing seam metal roofs allow the usage of hurricane-proof fastening clamps of solar panels, so we were able to lug the panels up the roof ourselves and bolted them on with the Allen torque wrench. We passed county and FPL inspections, and our first solar net metering system went live on July 11, 2017. We were astounded how easy and cheap it was to build a net zero energy home in Florida using sweat equity, and we can confirm that our strategy will pay off our solar system in 4 to 5 years. Encouraged by the economic results of our first system, we decided to proceed with our second solar installation 1 year later in 2018. To our dismay, Sarasota County had just abolished the instantaneous over-the-counter building permit for photovoltaic systems. To make matters worse, the Florida Power and Light Internet website was modified to automatically demand that we reduce our system size from 28 solar panels to 19 solar panels. The automated denial of our second net metering application by the FPL website in 2018 was the beginning of this altercation, which brought us here to speak before you today. The detailed documents of this altercation are publicly available under the docket 2019-0176-EI on the FPSC server. Our personal experience with FPL's questionable online approval process during our net metering applications demonstrates that FPL consistently imposters as a pseudo-official regulatory agency using unenforceable rules based on NextEra Energy's corporate guidelines. In substance, FPL intimidates net metering applicants into reducing their solar system sizes without offering any substantial justification. This process clearly aims to cripple the solar power production capabilities of net metering installations in order to protect FPL's commercial interests. After submitting an official complaint with this commission, one of our net metering applications was denied by FPL, and FPL's denial was later confirmed by this honorable commission. For better or for worse, we are not alone in this situation. A few days ago, Mr. Floyd Gonzalez and Mr. Robert Irving filed their petition to compel Florida Power and Light with Section 366.91 and Rule 25-60065 on the PSC docket, and you all will be tasked to rule on this petition to compel in a few days. Since I am speaking to you as an engineer without much legal background, I would like to laud Mr. Gonzalez and Mr. Irvin's brilliant attorney, Mr. Kyle Egger, for his legal analysis. Mr. Egger put it where it's at, so to speak, and his original pleadings can be found under the FPSC docket number 2019-0167-EI on the PSC website. Of course, the struggle between public and private interests neither began nor ended with Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Irving, or with us. We all understand that the generation and distribution of electricity enabled the industrialization of our modern society during the past 2 centuries. During those early years, electric power lines and power stations were mostly owned by public entities.
Mr. Klemmt, I'm going to cut you off here. I don't want for you to get into a long speech. I just want to speak specifically about this docket that's before us. Do you have anything else about your current situation?
Yes. But I was assured I wouldn't be cut off before I started this.
I don't know who assured you of that.
The staff.
Let's just get to the facts here. I don't want to talk about the history of electricity.
Okay. Well, we'll cut out a couple of things. Today, the electricity needed to power an average Florida family home, including 2 electric cars, or a small business, can easily be generated by a decentralized 20 to 30 kilowatt rooftop solar installation. Before you start rolling your eyes and dismissing our arguments as leftist New Green Deal chatter, please study the recent survey conducted by the Clean Energy Conservatives, a group of forward-thinking Republicans. This conservative activist group concluded a renewable energy survey with the following bottom line: minimizing red tape and regulations for renewable energy companies, net metering policies, protecting property owners' ability to produce energy on their land, protecting property owners' rights to lease their land for renewable energy production. The goals stated in our petition match the first 3 goals of the Clean Energy Conservatives pretty well. You, as the Public Service Commission in Florida, have not only the sole jurisdiction to address and help with these 3 goals, you are actually obligated by your own PSC mission statement and goals to address these matters. To facilitate the efficient provision of safe and reliable utility service at fair prices, provide a regulatory process that results in fair and reasonable rates while offering rate-based regulatory utilities an opportunity to earn a fair return on their investments, encourage efficiency and innovation among regulated utilities, encourage and facilitate responsible use of resources and technology in the provision and consumption of utility service, provide appropriate regulatory oversight to protect consumers, ensure that all entities providing utility service to consumers comply with all appropriate requirements subject to the Commission's jurisdiction. NextEra Energy's stock chart demonstrates that the official FPSC goal to assure that NextEra Energy...
I'm going to cut you off there. Mr. Rubin, do you have any response to the specifics of this case?
Not to the specifics of this case, no, sir.
Okay. All right, Commissioners. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. While I appreciate the effort and the work that has gone by the petitioner and the passion that you have for the decentralized solar net metering, I think that the current rule and the purpose of the rule is being met, and with that, I would move approval of the staff recommendation.
It's been moved in second approval of the staff recommendation. Commissioner Pullman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, we appreciate, as Commissioner Brown indicated, the efforts that you've gone through for your own purposes to install the solar energy system for your needs. And my only question to you is, what is your purpose for seeking to install additional generation capacity beyond meeting your own needs?
Dr. Pullman, unfortunately, I was not able to address this matter.
That's why I'm asking you that singular question, sir. What is your purpose to install additional capacity? Are you currently meeting your own needs?
Yes, yeah.
What is it that is your intention for
this is a
seeking
misconstrued statement by the staff that this is our intention to generate surplus as a primary goal. And I have addressed this in my speech, but I wasn't able to finish.
I heard that.
Yes.
I would like you to answer for me, to what purpose would you seek to generate electricity beyond your own need?
It's very difficult, sir, to estimate precisely how much electricity you will use if you have an electric vehicle, for example. Mr. Andrew Fay drives a Tesla. I stand next to him in the parking lot. If he would have a solar system, his generating need would vary greatly with the miles that he drives. And FPL's own company policy allows 115% based on historical usage. This is nonsense. This is unscientific. We need to allow applicants to focus on future usage, and we absolutely oppose Florida Power and Light impostering as a regulatory agency. You, as the Florida Power Service Commission, have the authority to regulate systems, and you cannot delegate this authority to a publicly traded company like Florida Power and Light. Does that answer your question?
No, sir. I would like to give you one more opportunity to answer my question. You're an engineer and I'm an engineer. And Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make one more attempt. I understand there's a motion in a second. And sir, the chairman is about to call for our vote. And I would like to give you one more opportunity. I have a simple question for you. Mm-hmm. You have installed the system and you've told us
yes,
that you're meeting your needs. And
yes, mm-hmm.
We're about to make a decision.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have apparently requested of your utility an opportunity to generate additional electricity. What is your purpose for generating additional electricity beyond what you are currently generating? Is it your intent to generate that power, that electricity, in excess of your own demand? That is a yes or no question.
That is not a yes and no question, Dr. Pullman. I apologize. It's not. You cannot design a system precisely to whatever a usage is going to be. And the current regulation allows, even Florida Power and Light's guidelines allow a system to be slightly bigger. There is even a surplus regulation for that in place today that pays for that surplus generation. So I do not understand why you criminalize people who make a little more than they actually use. It's just unreasonable to do so. And the primary use, the word's usage, primary use in the rule implies that a secondary use is permissible, sir. A rule would have said exclusively or sole if a secondary use would be illegal. And you make it sound like it has to be 100%, and this is kind of what it has to be. This is incorrect. We should not moralize against surplus power production on a decentralized world. The remuneration or the payback that you get actually for your surplus power is 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour. That is less than 1/5 of the net metering rate. And you are moralizing against doing this? This makes no sense to me, Mr. Pullman.
Well, I appreciate that you have attempted to answer my question,
Yeah.
and I'm inferring from your answer, with your simple use of the word surplus, that you want to generate surplus energy, and that answers my question, even though you've not done an adequate job to inform me. I stand down, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have, and hopefully we can close this matter. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've debated getting into the, thought in my own mind about getting into this debate. I don't think I want to. This is, I don't think anybody here wants to open the net metering issue, because I don't think a lot of folks are going to like where I stand on that issue. But I do have one primary question. So if you're generating your power needs and your interest, I think you were trying to imply that your interest was not in selling power back to the utility company. Your petition, I believe, mentioned you needed 8 cents a kilowatt. If you're generating your own power, why don't you just disconnect from the utility and remove yourself if you have all of your own capabilities? Why do you need an interconnect?
That is at the perfect moment, the perfect time, and a technical advantage to have the electric grid, actually. If you have solar overproduction, for example, in the prairies, if you're in Texas, out west, and you have more electricity in Texas that you can use, you can actually power our homes in Florida with solar energies at its peak in Texas. It is very smart to use the grid. Of course, I can put a battery up and then could disconnect myself. I can do that, but I am advocating for a smart grid, and you as the Public Service Commission needs to get involved to enable a smart grid to operate. You need to move away from historical centralized thoughts about power production. You need to have allow modern, innovative concepts of decentralized regenerative power production. You should not criminalize or moralize against small surplus production. And Mr. Clark, very much it is the primary intent to cover my own power supply. And if I generate a couple of kilowatt hours, it's very small what I have in surplus. It's couple of kilowatt hours. Why not? Why is it such a big deal? Why does a multi-billion-dollar company like NextEra Energy needs to be afraid of a couple of kilowatt hours that my rooftop solar system generates more than I actually use?
Well, in my opinion, and Mr. Klemmt, it's obviously not your intent. If you're trying to put a production system in place and you're wanting 8 cents a kilowatt hour, it's pretty obvious to me what the intent is here. Mr. Chairman, I move the previous question.
All right, we got a motion and a second to move the staff recommendation. If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? By action, you've approved the staff rec. Thank you, staff. Next is